Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We talk about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. And I'm back today with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore, who's become really fascinated with electric boats. How's it going today, Bill?
Oh, really? You know what? I should point out that in the video introduction,
Mhm.
next to the last clip is actually of a hydrofoil. Because
Mhm.
back, oh man, 15, 20 years ago, I did an interview with a company, I think it's
Oh, that muted Bill.
I'm back. So I did an interview 15, 20 years ago with a company that was developing a pleasure boat version of a hydrofoil. So I've been interested in this for a long, long time. So if you see me concentrating a lot more on electric boats, and I'm now learning more and more about how to make safe aviation fuel using local island resources.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's fun. I'm having a blast.
I've been doing a lot lately on, more research on biofuels, making sustainable aviation fuel, renewable diesel,
Yep.
all that, from various things.
Well,
So
we need to get together for a beer and we'll swap what we know because I know a lot more now about HEFA and ATJ than I ever thought I'd know.
um, why are you doing research on the grenadines?
Without giving away too much information for what I am proposing for a business model for this service that I'm calling a black boat service, like a
Mhm.
black boat service. Uh, the best place to do this for the Caribbean. I mean, I started in Cuba, and then I went to Puerto Rico, and then I went to the Antigua and Barbuda, but everything kept pointing to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So that's where I'm focused at the moment, and that happens to be for what I'm proposing. That happens to be the best place to launch it. So that's at least according to Copilot and Gemini and ChatGPT and so on.
So I wondered how the grenadines got their name, and it's French for grenade, okay, and which is the French word for pomegranate. But I don't know why that has
Interesting.
to do with the islands.
Well, maybe they grew them there. I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question. I'll have to look into that more. I'm sure one of the AIs has an answer because every time I pose a question. Oh, another thing I discovered this week, I can actually, because of the using my phone has the Google AI or Google operating system on it. Um, I can actually now talk to my phone. I was driving home and I had a question about making mead using frozen peaches. So
Mhm.
I just thought, well, you're driving me around and showing me the map and getting me from A to B. How about you tell me what I need to do to make mead out of frozen peaches?
Mhm.
And dang if it didn't come back to me and tell me exactly while I'm driving from
Mhm.
Trader Joe's where I just bought the peaches, telling me how to make the mead, basically peach mead in
Hmm.
my car while I'm driving.
That's funny. You know, um, yeah, there's a lot of amazing things. Well, one of the things I was talking about how I want AI for in or hardware for in a Model Y, and part of it is so it can use a more recent or better used Grok in the car.
Okay.
For kind of the same reason to be able to just drive
Right.
around and talk and see. I'm not a Grok user, but I'm just kind of thinking it's like, well, I guess I have to kind of get used to it
Yeah.
having a Tesla. But anyways, let's
On
move
to
on.
EV world.
Yeah, let's see. A lot of the news kind of redundant. Like my top article again is about the SpaceX IPO, but we covered this a little bit last week.
Well, maybe
But
we should talk about Blue Origin.
Oh yeah, the
Holy,
explosion. Yeah, the
oh
billion-dollar
my
blow up.
God.
Yeah, yeah.
That's going to be, hopefully they collected all that telemetry data.
Yeah, hopefully
That's
we got a lot.
terrific.
Musk gave his condolences, and at the end he said, making rockets is hard.
Well,
And
yeah.
especially when it's $1 billion that just blew up. Yeah. Um, let's see. SpaceX is, it's funny. I see different articles saying the IPO at 1.25 trillion valuation. I see people trying to trade it at this price right now, but they're expecting it to be a 1.75 when it goes live. But Musk's majority ownership would bring his share to being worth over $600 billion, potentially making him the world's first announced trillionaire. Yeah,
That's,
I'm going to use the word announced because I'm not convinced he's the first.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Despite 18.6 billion revenue in 25, SpaceX posted a $4.9 billion net loss. But the company has 102 billion in assets and carries 60 billion in debt. The deal includes that with the IPO, Anthropic paying SpaceX $15 billion a year for data center access for AI operations. It's interesting that XAI and, which is Grok, and
Is
Anthropic
that
are doing these things together.
Anthropic? I can't keep all these guys straight. So Anthropic is what?
Claude,
OpenAI or
Claude.
Claude? Okay, Claude. All right.
Anthropic
Which
owns Claude.
I use. So
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anybody disputes that Claude Opus is the best if you want bleeding edge product out there on the edge of technology. The challenge is its usage is very, very pricey.
yeah.
And I guess, if it's the best, it should be kind of pricey. I see products all the time that people are doing, hey, you can do this, but which AI version you want to use with it, and it actually will tell you what your cost is for each one. If you use something like Open Router. So Open Router is like a all-you-can-eat buffet, except you pay for the whole buffet. I should say it's a buffet by the pound, okay? And
Right.
it depends on what you're eating, okay? If you're eating caviar, it's more expensive than if you're eating coleslaw. And so anyways, what it does is if the most expensive is Claude Opus 4.8, which just came out. And as you go down the different versions of Claude, they may be a little cheaper.
Right.
But then you switch over to Chat GPT, it's a little cheaper. But then you've got some like DeepSeek. DeepSeek's like 1/10 the price of Claude. Okay. And you got some others out there that are really inexpensive or free. And the challenge is I've tried messing with some of these, the free ones, and they never give me that. They can't like do our news. Okay. So just generating news articles. In all fairness, I probably use $1 worth of AI every time I pull up news articles for the show.
Right.
Yeah, I try to figure out, what it costs and credit usage and all that. But if I did it exclusively with Claude, it'd probably cost me another $1. Okay. But it's interesting just to see how some of that works. But with Open Router, you can select from about 50 different large language models that you can pull down data from, which makes it quite interesting to see.
Now, I assume that Open Router, there's a subscription to that, or you just, or what?
No.
How's that work?
No, it's basically free, but it charges you for the use of all of the LLMs you use through it. So I'm sure they're making a, commission or something on that. There's some way that they're monetizing it, but they don't. You can download Open Router and use it. But so, for instance, if you're using OpenClaw, you generally use Open Router as part of it, but your information stays on your OpenClaw system on your PC if you host it, locally. And then you use Open Router, and then that's what you build in. If we're designing something like that, you definitely wouldn't want to use Claude to be, you might want it to be the main thing on your open claw, but you don't want it to be the thing that pulls the heartbeat, because you have this thing called a heartbeat with open claw, and it will take everything you've stored on there and like go out and search it like every 30 minutes, and you'll blow through like $20 a day just on heartbeat.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's if you used Opus.
Yeah.
Okay, if you use Claude. And so what you would do is you would use something else. But anyways, on this deal here, Musk has made the Memphis data centers. He's basically rented them out to Anthropic, which
and they're running on unlicensed.
That's not true.
That's okay. Explain that, because what I saw was a story to the effect that those gas turbines are not running with emissions permissions or whatever.
Well, there may be an issue there, but they certainly pulled permits to be able to put all that stuff in.
Oh, well, yeah.
Options. Okay.
But they don't apparently have anything that is controlling or restricting or monitoring whatever, allowing them to put those emissions into the air in the neighborhood there in Memphis.
Yeah, I don't know about that last part. Okay. I just know that, Mike Herzog and I were talking about this on the show one day, and that there's no way that got built and people didn't sign off on it.
Oh, no, I'm sure. I'm sure
code enforcement and other people like that were obviously very involved in that. It's just that some people haven't been happy about it. And, it's in an industrial area. Okay. It doesn't mean that the people that live in that area are happy about it, though.
Right.
Because they're not necessarily, unless they work there. This is one of the problems, though, with data centers. They don't create a lot of jobs. As I've been looking at different things in the energy space, a lot of energy does not create a lot of jobs. Okay. Windmills don't really create. I mean, there's a few people that build the thing and all of it. Once it's up,
and then there's some
maintenance.
Periodic, there's periodic maintenance and inspection of the blades and things like that.
Solar doesn't create a lot of jobs, except, for the initial installation and all that. Nuclear doesn't create. Now, nuclear is a little different. Grid scale nuclear employs a lot of people, but the newer technologies that I've been talking about that are coming to market, they're going to be autonomous.
I know what creates a lot of jobs in the energy field.
Well, waste to energy.
Oh, coal mines.
Oh, well, there you go. Coal mines, yes.
How many people did they lose in that coal mine explosion in China? A couple hundred?
I was thinking it had another digit. It was only a couple hundred.
Yeah, well,
not that that's small.
No, that's not small.
I was thinking it was like 1,000 or something. It may have been less, but still, it's a tragedy no matter how you look at it.
Absolutely. Yep.
But what I was getting at is, as I've looked, so I was looking at this company the other day that takes the salt from a desalination plant and uses it to make salt-based sodium batteries for energy storage. Well, I was looking at the idea of putting on an island waste to energy. So we're taking our trash, recycling the trash.
Yep.
And it takes to produce, say, 100 megawatts. You're talking 200-300 employees sorting through trash. So you got all these people that are being employed doing that. Well, then if you had that energy going to somebody making the batteries next door, you have all these employees making batteries, right?
Yeah.
And the batteries are fairly, well, let's just say they're far less toxic. That's one of their advertisements, is that, there's not all these toxins. When you're done with the battery, you could just dump the stuff out because it's not toxic. And mind you, you don't want to be pouring the salt in your backyard or something like that and not have anything grow, but still.
Right, exactly,
Yeah, but
I have if you're going to do that, I have a place for you. If you will go and look at the island of St. Vincent, and you look down in the extreme southeast corner of St. Vincent, you will see a giant landfill. So if you're looking for a waste, just between you and me, right? If you're looking for a waste to energy plant, there's a resource sitting there.
Nice. Well, my thought was this. There has to be an off taker for the batteries, right? But the batteries could be used in other spaces for energy storage.
I have a use for the batteries.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just saying, I've been looking at this whole ecosystem of how you play this down the road, because one of the challenges with waste energy, with nuclear, whatever, is finding an energy off taker when we're not talking about the United States.
I know an off taker.
Yeah. So, when I talk about my concept of ending energy poverty, a lot of it involves being able to find manufacturing and jobs. And so I've been looking at these things. It's like, well, I can, the waste energy creates jobs, the battery thing creates jobs. And
I actually have a need for a waste product that comes off of every little, what do we call them? Custom home, not home brewer, but what are the local brewery, the guy that makes the special, lager or ale or, IPA, whatever. I need his CO2. And I'd be happy to take his CO2 off of his hands.
You take his carbon.
I'll take his carbon dioxide because I need it. And if you're familiar with the and I can't hydrolyze, it's HEFA process of making safe sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, that carbon dioxide is a key part of that process, as is hydrogen. So all I need is seawater, CO2 from the brewer, and hydrogen, and I can make a perfectly good jet fuel from that. And I have an application. Guess what? For that jet fuel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to our next topic. Rivian R2 Performance. So they have an R2 Performance model, matches Tesla Model Y efficiency at lower price. But it's actually comparing it to Tesla Model Y Performance. Okay. Now, I don't know how many people really buy the performance models. But the thing is, when I'm looking at used Teslas, the performance actually tends to sell for used a little less than the long range, because most people want the
long range. Exactly.
Yeah, and the performance has a different tire setup and is more expensive for replacing tires. And it also was, it's a lot faster. Okay, no question, it's faster. We're not talking like crazy faster. I think they may have another 100 horsepower, but
when and why do you use that, honestly?
Well,
right?
I get that. That also means it's going to have higher insurance rates too.
There's your real answer.
And when people talk about the tire problem with cars, the performance has an issue because I think I saw that maybe the front and rear tires have a different size or something. There's something different that you can't just rotate like normal.
Oh, that's interesting. Huh.
Yeah. So you
comment below if you know the answer to that, folks. Let us know.
I do know people who own performance models, but I've never asked them about that aspect. But I'm just saying that on the used side, I see slightly better deals. The deals are better on performance. So if you're looking for a Model 3 Performance or a Model Y Performance, you're going to get a better deal.
Yeah.
But anyways, the R2 Performance achieves 105 miles per gallon equivalent and 32 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. Matching Tesla Model Y Performance while delivering 330 miles of range versus Tesla's 306. The thing is, the Model Y long range produces more range than the R2 Performance or the Tesla Y Performance. Right. But despite boxy shape and higher weight, the R2 stays competitive with an 86.8 kilowatt hour battery pack and starts at about $58,000. All-terrain tires option drops the range down to only 307 miles.
Oh, gee, only 307. We used to worry. We used to hope we would someday get to 150.
That's funny.
We were so excited when the EV1 switched from Delco, I think, lead acid batteries over to nickel metal hydride
Right.
batteries, and the range went from 60 miles to 120. Boy, that was exciting.
I
Now where are we
remember
at?
I remember how cool it was in the late 90s or in the 90s when laptops went from nickel metal hydride to lithium ion. What a
Yep.
big jump that was.
Oh yeah.
Nobody was talking about laptops catching on fire back then, though, either.
Well, no, because they're yeah. We
I,
didn't know.
I would get these pallets of used battery backups, the UPSs or whatever,
Right?
uninterruptible power supplies.
Right?
And occasionally I'd have one of those catch on fire.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. I, I've seen so much computer stuff catch on fire that made no sense. I've had monitors catch on fire while we're testing them. You plug the thing in, and all of a sudden it starts sparking.
Poof.
It's
Yeah.
on fire. I've seen all kinds of things. Just you mix electricity and something's not quite right anymore, and boom, you just never know what you're going to
Well,
get.
there's a lot of energies being driven through all that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. All right. So, how we always hear the people like talking about how Tesla stock's going to crater and all this, sell off all your Tesla or whatever. Well, here's one the other way around for Motley Fool. Tesla stock could soar in H2 2026 on robotics and FSD progress. Tesla stock down 1% year to date, while the S&P 500 is up 10%. But the company raised capex guidance from 20 billion to 25 billion for the year, causing investor concern at the 208 times PE ratio. That's so high, 208 times.
Yeah, normally PE is down in at least double digits or at
I always
best.
it's crazy when I see a company trading at like 40. And it's
Yeah.
always somebody like MasterCard and Visa, companies like that, they trade at like 40 times. And I'm always just like, well, what new when you're buying a high PE ratio company like Tesla, the idea is that you're expecting that you're buying that future value in the company.
Right.
Okay. And then it's going to be worth far more at some point. And I've never understood that with like Visa and MasterCard, right? But it still works out for them. But let me see. The Optimus Generation 3 humanoid robot reveal pushed to late July, August. Robot learns by observation, video, or voice instruction. Could enable corporate workforce replacement. Unsupervised full self-driving software potentially ready for consumer vehicles by Q4. Robotaxi service recently expanded to Dallas and Houston. Yeah, I don't know. Q4 for the
No, they are. Nah. There's a lot of that's being driven by hype and promise. I mean, the only one that's really demonstrating any kind of significant growth in that that area is Waymo.
Yeah, I've got friends who have Teslas. They go all the way from hardware 1 all the way to hardware 5, and they're like the full self-driving and hardware 5, which is like the 2026 models, is ridiculously good. It's like you were talking about the guy with the Cybertruck and all this stuff they do. It's like, well, it's not unsupervised. It is supervised full self-driving, but it's still it does it. Let me see. U.S. grid set for record 86 gigawatt capacity addition, 80% of that coming from solar and storage. Solar leading with 43 gigawatts planned for 26, a 60% increase over 25. Wow. 43 gigawatts is a 60% increase over last year. Texas accounts for 40% of new utility scale solar projects. Battery storage surged 24 gigawatts planned for 26 versus 15 last year. Total U.S. storage capacity jumping from 44 gigawatts to over 67 gigawatts by Q1 of next year. Texas added almost 13 gigawatts of storage, which was 53% of new capacity in the United States. California, 3.4 gigawatts. Arizona 3.2. Combined solar and wind generation will surpass 20% of total U.S. mix by early 27. You know, it is, once again, though, when you look at this and they're talking about gigawatts of potential energy or whatever, it's still not really comparing apples to apples. But there's no nuclear coming online. You know, there's probably no hydroelectric coming online. There's a whole lot of technologies where nothing is coming online, but you do have some, you know, LNG type situations coming online. Not in a big way, but you do have some coming online. Let's see.
Yeah, but the growth in new generation is coming from renewables. That
predominantly, yeah, no question. And that's the
yeah.
U.S. That's not worldwide. Worldwide, it's an even bigger gap.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Let me see. Energy storage trends for 26. Grid forming tech and non-lithium rise. Global energy storage installations passed 100 gigawatts last year. Now, we said the United States was at 44 of that. China removed mandates for storage with renewables, shifting to market mechanisms. Sodium ion flow batteries and iron air systems gaining traction as lithium supply chains face complications, especially for U.S. market with Chinese module restrictions. Grid forming energy storage evolving from technical curiosity to commercial necessity in 26. Chinese manufacturers expected to announce new ownership structures to regain U.S. market access below 25% FEOC requirements. I don't know what FEOC is, but I do see a lot of Chinese manufacturers opening up facilities in the United States. I mean, there's a new cabinet manufacturer in Dallas that's 100% automated. It's owned by a Chinese company.
Cabinet, like what's hanging right here in my kitchen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like kitchen cabinets. And the materials come in on a truck, robots unload it. It goes down assembly lines without human intervention, and the cabinets get loaded back on a truck to go out to customers without humans touching them.
Okay, are these raw wood, or are they finished? I mean, obviously
I'm assuming that the wood is simply cut. Okay. So I don't know much more than that. All I know is that they're not employing anybody. I mean, there are like engineers and stuff like that, robotics people there, but I'm just saying there's no line workers. But it's all Chinese company, you know, doing this here in the United States. So they've invested significantly in the United States, but it didn't create much.
I saw a thing where BYD is now building a car one every minute. One new car every minute.
Wow. And probably automated.
It's all pretty much all automated. Yeah.
People think about cheap Chinese labor, but in reality, they switched so much to robotics.
Yep.
Let's see here. All right, we're going to talk about our.
Hey, before we do, let me just jump in and just remind everybody that the official reveal of the R2 is going to take place on June 9th. So just if you're interested in that car and you want to, they've already started releasing the specs for it. I've got an article on the website about it you can look at, but that's coming up June 9th.
All right. So a company owned by Geely called Lynk & Company, it's L-Y-N-K, launches 800-volt, 900-volt electric sedans in China, charging faster than BYD. They launched 10 and 10 plus electric sedans in China, starting at $25,000.
I know.
With 800-volt or 900-volt architectures. Ultra fast charging allows them to go from 10 to 80% in 5.5 minutes. It's 1,080% charge rate, outpacing BYD's flash charging technology. Their top model, the 10 Plus, delivers 680 kilowatts, which is 912 horsepower, with 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.2 seconds. if we're talking a $25,000 car that does that, so 100 kilometers is 62 miles per hour. So
Right.
it's 0 to 62 in 3.2. Features 25.6-inch AR HUD, heads-up display, and a 23-speaker 1,600-watt audio. However, Geely's charging station rollout significantly lags BYD's infrastructure. We were talking on here a couple of days ago, and somebody's like, "Oh, nobody's going to really buy, EVs till they can be charged in another 15 minutes, and there's a EV infrastructure." It's like, well, they have that in the rest of the world. They just don't have a lot here in the U.S.
Not here. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of funny to.
It's just, you see these things rolling out and what they're doing over there, and it's, some of it, of course, is propaganda, and you have to kind of weigh it against, what the party wants to push onto the rest of the world. But the rest is just legitimate, serious engineering that is, and styling. I mean, the cars are beautiful. They're not, clunky. Things that they might once have been. They're beautiful. They're stylish. They're technologically advanced in some cases, years, if not a decade, beyond where we are here in the United States.
Well, one of my big complaints about the big three is whenever they made something that was supposed to be super highly energy efficient, in the United States, they made it ugly, so you wouldn't want to buy it. So they would try to get people out of the craze by making just ugly cars, and they were really bad about doing that. I think they're finally getting the message that people will buy EVs if they look like a car.
If they look like a car and they can come as close to reasonably expected, given technology and the human body, what we would expect out of a gas car. My Hondas, I could drive them for about 300 miles, and then I'd have to stop, and refuel them at a service station along the interstate. I can do that now with an EV. And of course, at the moment, most American EVs available to us, takes half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, depending on the model. Imagine you pull into a charging station and you're there for 5 minutes instead. Same time it took you to fill the car up with gasoline. It's just phenomenal.
Anyways, folks, that's all we got for today. I'll be back on Friday with our engineer, Mike Herzog, and Bill and I will be back next Tuesday. Otherwise, folks, thanks for watching and have a great day.